guys, it's Jules, and today I'm going to be doing a look into my physical TBR because I have so many books. I got the idea from Jocelynn from JocelynnReads because she did it and she just kind of like showed every book that was on her TBR. So I decided I was going to do that, but I was also going to unhaul a couple while I was at it. The first book I've got is Everyday by David Levithan. I think I bought this book just because everyone's like, it's so good, but I don't even know what it's about. I picked this out of my shelf and I was like, I didn't even know I owned this, so this is getting unhauled. The next book I've got is I Am the Messenger by Marcus Zusak. I really enjoyed The Book Thief, and that was like the main reason I picked this book up, and I've heard so many good things about it, even though I don't know what this book is about either, but I'm much more likely to pick this one up just because I really enjoyed The Book Thief. The next book I've got is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. This is actually not even my copy. This is a copy of somebody I used to be friends with who I need to return this book to them, so getting rid of it, probably not going to read it, so I'll just give it back. The next book I've got is Doing It by Hannah Wynne. I think I just discovered her YouTube videos right when this came out, and I really liked them, and so I was just like, oh, I'll buy it. Truly, I'm not going to read this book. I already know that I'm not going to read this book. Like, I tried to start it, and I got like a chapter in, and I'm like, I don't want to read this. The next book I've got is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I read, I think, half of this book because I was reading it for class, but then I didn't read it fast enough and the assignment was due, so I never finished it, but I really, really want to, so I'm for sure keeping this. I will pick it up. The next book I've got is Vinegar Girl by Anne Tyler. I know that this is like a reimagination of The Taming of the Shrew by Shakespeare, but I don't even know what that's about. I mostly fell in love with this book because of the cover, because it's gorgeous. When I read the synopsis the first time around, I was like, this seems pretty interesting. I definitely want to get to it, especially because like I want to read more not YA books, so I want to keep it mostly for that too, just because I'm like, oh, it's not YA? Perfect. The next book I've got is The Nest by Cynthia Sweeney. I saw this book as a hardcover and I'm like, oh, that's a pretty cover, and then I read it and it's about like this really dysfunctional family and they all have to rely on the fuck up basically to get their money, and I'm like, ooh, we love spoiled rich kids. They're adults, but I bet you they're gonna act like kids. I'm for sure gonna read this, and gosh, just seeing it again made me so excited. Cannot wait to read it. The next book I've got is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I read this once in middle school and it was very confusing, but I did enjoy it. I definitely want to reread it because I know it'll make a lot more sense now because I understand a lot more now than I did in middle school. The next book I've got is The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. I honestly bought this because I really like the Raven Cycle, and I'm like, oh, I should read the rest of like her books. I don't even care about horses, and I honestly, like, horse racing isn't exciting to me. I'm really not gonna pick it up. I'm not gonna see this and just be like, hey, I want to read that. Next up, I've got Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Definitely gonna pick this up because I enjoyed it so much when I read it in high school, and I cannot wait to read it again. I think I have like 2 copies. I really do enjoy this book, so cannot wait to reread it. The next book I've got is The Complete Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi, I believe is how you say her name. Probably butchered it. I know very little about this, but it's a graphic novel, and seeing as I'm really enjoying graphic novels nowadays, I think I'm gonna keep it just because why not? Up next, I've got Arabian Nights. I know exactly why I bought this. I read The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh, and I was like, I should read what this was inspired by, but like, look at this massive brick. I've had this for years. I know I'm for sure never gonna read it. This one's also a brick, and it is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes and Other Stories, and I honestly just bought it because I'm like, oh, that's super pretty. Like, I've never seen one of these books at like Barnes & Noble before. I've had this since before I had a bookshelf, and I haven't picked it up. I think every time I pick it up, I'm just like, ooh. I don't think my dad would let me get rid of it, so I just have to keep it and hope for the best. The next book I have is The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and like, I don't know at all what this book is about, but I'm gonna read it anyways because I know that Whitney from Whitney Novels really likes this book, so truly that's the only thing I've got going for this, because I don't know what it's about. Like, I don't understand it all, and like, honestly, like, looking at how tiny the words are, part of me is like, ooh, do I want to read it? But I'm gonna read it just because I know she likes it. So the next book I have is a book that I didn't pick out for myself. I told my friend we could buddy read it together, and then I read half of it and she still hasn't read it. But it is The Watcher by Bella Jewell. This isn't my type of book at all, but like it's a fun, easy read. Definitely gonna keep this one just for the sake of Brittany because I promised her we'd read it and we haven't read it yet. The next book I've got is Demons Are a Ghoul's Best Friend by Victoria Laurie. I read the first one, which is What's a Ghoul to Do, back in like middle school, and I really liked it. So this is the sequel, and I definitely want to reread them before I decide on what to do, so because of that, I'm gonna keep it. Up next, I have a collection of bricks, and they are the Game of Thrones series, which I think is called A Song of Fire and Ice, actually. I bought these before I knew that the series was incomplete, but I want to read them anyways because I think I got 130 pages into the first book and I really, really enjoyed it. But like as soon as like I got that far in, I like hit a reading slump and just never picked it up again. Now's the time, especially like now that the show's over and like hopefully George R.R. Martin is going to release the rest of them next year. One of them's coming out next year, I think. The next two on my list are Library of Souls and Map of Days, both by Ransom Riggs. I know, I talked about how much I love Ransom Riggs and I still haven't finished the original trilogy, nor have I read the new book. I'm gonna get to it. These are definitely a keep. So the next two books I have are by the same author, so I'm just lumping them together, and it is We Were Liars and Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. I remember reading We Were Liars and thinking it was so good because I just did not expect it to turn out the way it did because I borrowed a copy from the library, so I finally bought myself one and I bought Genuine Fraud at the same time. Honestly, I don't know for sure if I'm going to pick these up. I think I'm going to keep them mostly just to see. I'm like, okay, if I reread We Were Liars and I enjoy it, then I will continue and read this one, and if not, then I'll probably just get rid of both. So for now, we're going to test it out and see how that goes. Next up, I've got The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. I got this in January, I believe, and I started reading it and I just wasn't enjoying it. I was just like, maybe it's a bad time for me to read this, but like now I'm like sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, oof, I don't want to pick it up at all. So goodbye. Next up, I've got Restore Me, a paperback copy. I bought it so I could annotate it, so this is for sure a keep. Like, there's no need for me to get rid of it. The next book I have is Adulting, How to Be a Grown-Up in 535 Easy-ish Steps. I got this book because I don't know how to adult, so I was like, why not, you know? Maybe it'll like give me a couple tips that I'll like. It'll give me somewhat of a better idea of what to expect as an adult because school sure as heck has not prepared me, so keeping it. Next book on my list is Nostalgic Blood by Jay Crockett. He is a self-published author. He just was like sitting in like the front of Barnes & Noble when I walked in one day and was like selling these like on his own. I was just like, oh, alright, like that's pretty cool that you're like self-published and you're like doing this traveling all on your own and all that. And he even makes like YouTube videos. And like the premise for this, I don't remember it anymore, but when I read it, I was like, ooh, that's pretty interesting. So I for sure am gonna keep this. Also, he signed it. I can't get rid of it. I mean, I don't want to get rid of it either way, but like it's signed too, so that was awfully sweet of him. The next two books I've got are from the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series by Laini Taylor. I read the first book back in high school, I think maybe freshman year, and I really, really enjoyed it, but every time since then when I try to reread it so I could read the other two, I just cannot get through it. Honestly, it's like I've kind of just been keeping them to keep them because I'm like, maybe one day, but like one day's not coming. I need to get rid of these. Up next, I've got the To the All of the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han. When the movie came out on Netflix, I was like, oh, you know what, maybe I should reread these books. And I am pretty excited to get to them. Hopefully the summer is the summer that happens. The next book I've got is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. I think I bought this because I know that she writes female romances, and I don't know for sure if this even is one or not. Seeing as I haven't read that much female like romance, I'm gonna check it out anyways. This is in a different shelf than the other books, but it is Tales of the Peculiar by Ransom Riggs. Definitely gonna keep this, don't even have to question it. Next up, I've got Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. I watched this movie and fell in love. The fact that I didn't even know any of that just makes me so sad. Like, this is the stuff we should be learning in school, but no, I've learned about World War II 20 times now. I still never retained any of that because it was so damn boring. I'm super excited to read this. I specifically got the movie cover because, Queens. Up next, I've got the Percy Jackson series, so it's like The Lightning Thief, Sea of Monsters, Titan's Curse, Battle of the Labyrinth, and The Last Olympian. I read these in middle school, loved them, and then I keep seeing this box set, which I think is so pretty, and I was like, I'm gonna buy this one day, and I did. I'm for sure gonna reread these because I remember loving them so much as a kid. Up next, I've got the Monstermologist series. I only have the first 3 books. They're by Rick Yancey. I read the first book in high school, I think, and I loved it. I found 2 out of the 3 I needed, and I just never got around to it. I'm definitely going to pick these up again. Next, I've got Written in Blood by Anne Bishop. I don't remember, and I'm so sad I don't remember, but a YouTuber that I love, a booktuber, of course, that I love, really loves this series and recommended it, and so I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna check it out, and I bought this first book and just never picked it up. I think I definitely want to at some point. I don't think it'll be soon, but I will for sure pick this up. Next, I have 1984 by George Orwell. I think this was just like a free copy that somebody was like, want this? And I picked it up because I'm like, oh, I'll read more classics. I don't know what it's about. I don't really care. It could be a dystopian. Not gonna pick it up for sure, so bye. Next, I've got Shiver and Linger by Maggie Stiefvater. Same reasoning as before. Bought it because of the Raven Boys, but truly, I'm never gonna read these books. Oh, I did actually, you know what? I did read the first book, and I remember enjoying it, but like, I don't care about werewolves, so I'm not gonna pick them up for sure. Next, I've got The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. Basically, the story for all these books, I remember reading this and I loved it, thought I would pick it up again, still haven't picked it up, and I know it's really sad, but I think this one, I'll give myself till the end of the year, and if I still am like, I don't know, then I'm gonna get rid of it. The next book I have is Not the Girls You're Looking For by Amina May Safi. I picked this up because she's a brown author, and I was like, okay, cool. I want more brown author reads, and I'm for sure gonna get to it, just don't know when. Next, I have It Devours by Jeffrey Cranor and Joseph Fink. This is a book based off the podcast Welcome to Night Vale. For sure keeping this because Welcome to Night Vale is my favorite podcast of all time, and if I got rid of it, then it's like, who really am I? Up next, I've got The Circle by Dave Eggers. I didn't buy this book. This was also somebody was offering it for free, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a movie soon? Why not? I liked the movie, but like, I didn't love it, so I'm probably not gonna pick up this book because it's massive, and I don't want to dedicate myself to something I only liked and didn't love. Next up, I've got Moral Disorders, and I think it's like Other Short Stories by Margaret Atwood. I picked this up just because I really like The Handmaid's Tale. I like Margaret Atwood as an author, so I definitely think I'm going to keep this for a while, see if I actually get to it. Next up, I've got Ready Player One. I got this book because of the movie that was going to come out, and I never watched the movie, and honestly, I lost my intrigue in the book as well. The next book I have is Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I definitely butchered that. I practiced it too, and I still messed up. I think I picked this up because everyone's like, this is such a great author. Witty Novels recently-ish read it, and she was so about it, and like, honestly, I don't even remember what she said it was about. I can't even remember that, and I watched that video maybe like a month or 2 ago. Should I really be keeping a book? No. The next book I have is The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. This is like something that takes place in like the 30s. I think I'm gonna keep this because it's like a mystery, maybe a murder mystery? A mystery for sure. I'm pretty intrigued, and I definitely want to pick it up at some point. The next book I have is Miriam Sharma Hits the Road by Sheba Kareem. This is an arc that I saw at one of the independent bookstores in town. I was like, okay, I'm gonna read that, and then honestly, I still haven't read it. They're very like lenient with like arcs, so it's like, if you don't return it, it's whatever. I still have it, and I'm definitely gonna pick it up because, like I said before, the world needs more brown authors. Next up, I've got The Girl in the Blue Coat by Monica Hesse. Don't even know how to say her last name. I'm so sorry. I picked this book up because it like looked interesting, and my mom actually read this book and she really enjoyed it, and she never reads, so I'm like, either I'm gonna love this or hate this. The standards are non-existent at the moment, but I definitely want to keep it. It takes place in 1943, and I really like World War II era books, even though I was just roasting how often we learn about World War II. Next up, I've got Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. Bought this because I love Gone Girl. I was kind of iffy about Sharp Objects, so I'm gonna give this one a try because like so far Gillian Flynn has been one I really love, one I'm like meh about. We'll see where this one lies. If I don't like it, then I'll probably get rid of it, but definitely gonna check it out. Next I have This Book Is Gay by Juno Dawson. I just thought this would be like an interesting book to read because I only know so much about the LGBT plus community, so I figured why not? Next up, I've got Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. Just recently unhauled most of my John Green books. Still am willing to give this one a try just because I think it deals with like mental health, and so I want to see where this goes. Next up, I've got The Testing by Joelle Carbonneau. I believe that's how you say her last name. This is a book that was gifted to me by a friend, and it's dystopian, and so for those two reasons alone, I am keeping it. Up next, I've got Wonder by R.J. Palacio. I bought this book just because I was like, oh, the movie's coming out, I'll read the book. Never read the book, never watched the movie, don't even really understand what this is about, to be honest, so I don't really think I'm gonna pick it up. I have Unforgiven by Lauren Cates. The Fallen series was my jam in middle school / high school. When I saw that this was coming out about Cam, I was like, of course I'll get it. I think I'm definitely going to reread the series, and I will read this. I've got 2 more books, and they are China Rich Girlfriend and Rich People Problems by Kevin Kwan. Absolutely loved Crazy Rich Asians, so I'm for sure going to read these. So that's pretty much all I've got. I have a couple more books, but they're at my friend's apartment, and they're all books I plan on keeping anyways. I got rid of 14 books, which honestly is more than I was expecting. I'm pretty proud of myself. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I will see you soon.